Welcome, everyone, to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group, and I am your host today. We want to thank our sponsor today, Lausanne Wheels and Looms. Great, beautiful material. If you have to go check out the wheels and looms they make, it's like furniture. You could put it in your living room or your dining room. It's beautiful wood. So go check them out. They're new and they're just getting onto the market. I think you'll be very impressed with their work. So go check them out, Lausanne. As always, we'll take questions at the end of the program, the last 15 minutes. If you would, as always, put them in the question and not in the chat. I can't always see them if they're in the chat, and I want to be able to get to as many questions as I can. Today, we are so excited to have Jean-Pierre Larochette. Jean is from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He is the son of a third generation French Aubusson tapestry weaver, and we're going to talk some about what that means. He apprentices in his father's workshop, and he went on to study at the School of Fine Arts in Buenos Aires. Following his studies, he traveled to Israel, where he worked for the internationally known French tapestry artist Jean Lurcat from 1963 to 64. I believe that's where he met his wife. He was also the co-founder and director of the San Francisco Tapestry Workshop and the teacher at the San Francisco State University textile program in the 1970s and 80s. He is currently working on the Wall of Tears project, and we are going to talk about that. And we've got some images of that too. A tapestry woven with the participation of 7 weavers from both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border. So we are honored to have Jean-Pierre here today. Hello, Jean.
Well, thank you, Mandy, Kathy, for inviting me.
Well, we are excited to have you here.
Excellent. Can you hear me well?
Yes, and you have a beautiful view of you and one of your works behind you, right?
Yes.
Great. We're going to start off with the silly question, which is, what is your favorite tea?
Yeah, actually, it's a great question because this association of textiles and tea brings very comforting feelings. In our daily rituals, the routines, the morning starts with a cup of tea, followed by textiles. But
Oh,
yeah, actually, at this stage in our life, elixir with exotic names such as Cabernet Sauvignon or Chardonnay has been replaced by others with equally exotic names such as Genmai Shah, Jasmine Pearl, Chai. They are all equally pleasurable, Well, more or less, okay? And we take them at different hours. But my favorite tea is one that I learned to love in my Patagonian youth, which is, if you can see it,
Ah,
is mate.
mate.
Mate. It is drank from a gourd, right? You see?
Uh-huh.
And if you are in company of people, you pass it around clockwise, actually. You have to pass it
Ah.
clockwise. So that is what I drink every morning. I don't do it from the gourd, actually, because it takes time and usually there are just two of us, but I do it like a tea, mate tea.
Well, that's a new one. I have never heard of that. Have y'all heard of that? I'd be interested in your comments in the chat. I've never heard of that, but it sounds fascinating. I like it that you share it. That's cool. Well, tell us
Well,
how you got started. I know you're so many generations in, but tell us a little more about how you got started in weaving.
yeah, right. Well, the simplest possible way, I absorb like child absorb language at my father's workshop. Now, he was also a painter and wanted me to go into that direction. But from my earliest memory, I fantasize by being a weaver, and I still do. I think that being a weaver in the 21st century requires a big dose of fantasy. On the other hand, I learned very practical lessons from tapestry. If one looks at the many techniques for forming and color transition, what we call battage in French, hatchings, form follow form, each builds for the other, respectful of boundaries, seeking harmony and beauty. If we could apply these values to society, we will live in utopia.
I missed that last part. Say that again.
Yes, the techniques themselves in tapestry
Uh-huh.
are so well balanced, and every color that is forming your weaving is so respectful of the other
Oh, okay, I get it.
that if we could apply those same values, you know, to society, I feel that we should live in utopia. It's all
Oh.
there in the techniques themselves.
If weavers ruled the world.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. And be faithful to the loop.
That's right. That's right. If you would, a lot of people don't know. I didn't know until a few years ago. I'd never heard of Abassan tapestry. So, can you talk a little bit about how that kind of tapestry weaving is different from maybe other weavings that we know as tapestry?
Yes. Well, the all tapestry techniques share the same principle. Here we have the top right picture is a view of Aubusson, is my ancestral, village is or a town is 7,000 people. It has been like this around for centuries. And then we have on the below it a weaving I did, a series of weaving actually, not that long ago. There are 16 by 16 inches, where I was trying to express one is a close up of the grain of the weave, that oblong, form that you see on the left diagram.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but including has a little picture in themselves, other techniques. I have done it with killing pieces. This one is about wedge weave. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is a weaving about weaving, is that the grain, the weave itself, in its simplicity, contains all these other forms. It's a phenomenal cultural achievement because we found it universally expressing the most diverse, beliefs and aesthetical values.
Okay. Your town looks beautiful, or the town looks beautiful.
So in the technique itself, Aubusson weave is done on a low warp weave, a loom. The
Oh,
low
okay.
warp weaving is the same weaving that brought us iconic pieces such as the lady with the unicorn, or in the Cluny Museum in Paris, or at the cloisters in New York, the famous unicorn tapestries.
Uh-huh.
So it's woven from the back and sideways. So to make things simple, there are very important reasons for that. I don't think that we want to elaborate on them now, but yeah, fundamentally that is the difference. And then there is in French tapestry another school, the Gobelin school, which is in Paris, and weave on high warps, but also from the back and sideways.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you and your wife have traveled a great deal, and you've lived various places throughout the world, but you ended up in Mexico. So, how has living in Mexico changed your approach to fiber? And one of the things I was thinking about was color, which may or may not have changed for you, but I was curious, did living there change how you approached weaving?
Well, do you know, the way we got to Mexico, it was through Europe and the Middle East. Actually, is where I met Yael, my wife and companion and designer for actually the first piece you showed today is her design, my weaving, was a commission piece. The second one is my design, my weaving. So we both work together, and we have been doing this now for about 60 years, which is kind of remarkable because usually um, weavers do not marry their designers. Right? So in that aspect, it is unusual. And probably, it's unusual the fact that we are still talking to each other. Um, when we arrived to Mexico, we were in our very early 20s. I think that I was 23 and Yael 21.
Wow.
And from the start, we were fascinated by the country and its people. It was a powerful experience, especially realizing that art, creativity, and imagination were everywhere. The concept of art was fully integrated to the experience of living. We believed from our, working together from the beginning, our dreams, that it would be possible, that exploration of a life dedicated to the arts. But we didn't know that was possible. Well, we learned in Mexico that it was, because it was really a form that we saw all around us, even at the most humble levels of craft. So the textiles of Mexico, especially the one from the southern states of Oaxaca and Chiapas, the Zapotec and Mayas works were a revelation. We learned that good craft is artistic and vice versa, that good art needs craft. In the words of poet Octavio Pass, he says, craft belongs to a world that precedes the separation between usefulness and beauty.
Huh. Usefulness and beauty. I like that. I've never heard that before.
Well, Octavio Paz was a poet, passed away a couple of, probably maybe half a century ago. He was also the Mexican ambassador in Paris. So he was really exposed to European art and crafts as much as he was exposed to Mexican art and crafts.
Well, speaking of your wife Yael, she is a designer,
Correct.
and I know that you two do work together. She'll do the design and you do the weaving. And I saw some images of her using like pencils, and I assumed they were watercolor pencils, but you said that um, she also paints or draws or whatever to make her designs. But
Correct.
this next image that we're going to look at is called Flight, and just is it just floats. It really does fly. There's a lightness to it and the delicate lines. And I was just curious, is
I
it
see that
more
we are,
difficult to weave something with the delicate details like this has, or like compared to something that's really bold with big lines and strong colors? Or is it about the same for you? It's just amazing how you can take her drawing and interpret it so beautifully.
Katya, I think that we are having the wrong image. What I'm looking at is the question and answer form in my screen.
You're looking at, oh, sorry. Um,
It's still
So
we're
there.
we're having trouble with the Q&A through Zoom. So is it still up?
Yeah. it's still
Jean-Pierre,
there.
you just have to click it off. Click the little
Yeah.
X and it won't show up on your screen.
I can click it off in my screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look,
there's a
there's an X up there
Okay,
on the
okay,
top.
okay, okay. There you go. Ah, yes. Now,
Sorry, everyone. This is our makeshift
now I see.
Q&A.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, technology is great until it doesn't work, you know?
Well, thank you, Kathy, for picking this uh, tapestry because
Oh, it's
actually
gorgeous.
it's the one behind me. It's all the way back there.
Yeah.
I think it's in the early 80s that Yael designed that. It was from actually a very small sketch that she did while we were traveling somewhere. And a dear friend, saw it one day and said, "This is your next weaving." And, ha ha, I thought, will never happen. It was too complex but once we found the right dimension, the right scale, um, it, I worked for it. I did it a couple, maybe three times. It was quite successful in according to Aubusson, rules and regulations. A tapestry can be woven between 3 and 8 times. So anyway, each time was a total, a different experience, of course. Um, this, probably the best way I can express this is that working together, Yael picked up on certain techniques that she saw I was doing on the loom, and then she will use them in the next cartoon and add some new kind of challenging, uh, riddle for me to solve. Uh, Now, as my friend Jacobo Mendoza once told me, weaving a tapestry is like playing a game, and I don't like to lose. So I put my soul into it, and try to do the best I can. This one, was particularly difficult because if you look at all those like connections of different areas, they convey in one particular point, they have to be well balanced. They couldn't
Mhm.
one carry on over the other. They have to be all kind of interconnected. And that was probably the biggest challenge in this piece.
Mm.
And the reason I have it behind me here is because about a couple of years ago, one of our friends and collectors says, "Hey, I'm buying one of your pieces. It's in Oakland in an auction house." And I say, "Wait a minute, which piece is this?" And he tells me the piece. And I say, "Well, I want to buy it." And he said, "Okay, how how much will you pay for it?" So we established a top, that we were going to go. And we got it right there. I mean, she was going, and faithfully he paid for it and saved it for us. And here it is.
I just can't get over how tiny the detail is.
You know, the warp itself in all these pieces is about um, uh, 12 warps to the inch.
Really?
What we call 16 porte. Yeah, 12 warps
Wow.
to the
I
inch.
just can't get over how tiny that detail is.
There is a lot of silk in it.
Oh, okay.
And all the colors here in this piece really are from our old good friends of Paternian Brothers. You know, they have this fabulous collection of colors, a palette of, I think, over 300 colors.
Mm. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love how there's so many different blues in there, you know? It's like
yeah, that was the dyers. We do not dye our own yarns.
it's just amazing. Now I'm assuming that you get these gradations by combining do you combine the different colors together? Do you
Well, sometimes we do. Yeah, you are right. There are two ways to create these shadings.
uh-huh.
One is blending the color in the bobbin because we use about three ends in the on the we wind the bobbin with three ends, so we actually can, if willing, we can mix three different colors. But then, in addition to that, there is the hachures and the hatchings, what
Oh,
we call the hatchings, which blends one color into the other. That is a real traditional French tapestry technique, highly developed, during the Middle Ages, late Middle Ages.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I know y'all going, why is she just sitting here? I can't take my eyes off of the work. So I just want you all to take it in and we'll just sit here in silence. And yeah, this work is just amazing. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you, Catherine.
Um, so this next the slide, we're going to do a comparison of Flight, and then that was woven in 1988, and then Wings was woven in 1993. And they're very similar in some ways. They both have that feeling of flight and floating. And I was curious, and you kind of answered that. You said that your wife picks up on techniques sometimes and puts them back in. So do you pull things from other weavings and bring them into your next work? Um, is that something that you do?
Yes, usually. Oh, you do have a slide of wings.
Yeah.
I'm glad you do. I couldn't find one here. Kadia, you should send me to me. Uh, yeah, these are similar. Probably, I don't remember originally when Yael designed these pieces.
Uh-huh.
It's very likely that she designed them at the time, at the same the same year, and I wove them much later. Sometimes a design is sitting there for years before it goes to the loom. Um, yeah, this was a moment where the work was mostly abstract. We did a number of pieces like this. It gets a point where, for some reason or another, your interest grows in a particular direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I see that most of his work is abstract. And for me, has been my greatest designer. I have woven many other designers. In my early youth, that was how I make a living, working for other designers. But nobody understood tapestry as Yael does. So it's always a joy, I don't get tired of this.
Well, you'll have to let Yael know how much we admire her designs, that her drawings are amazing.
I will. I'm her weaver and spokesperson.
Yeah, she made it real clear she didn't want to do this, that you were going to do the talking. But just let her know that we're loving her work. Big
Yeah.
loving her work.
Thank you.
All right. This next piece is so dramatic. I just love this. And it's kind of a nice contrast. It's kind of dark. And this is called My House Shall Be Called a House of Prayer for All Peoples. And you have completed several works that are religious based. And I was always curious, do you find it challenging to make a religious work because of the personal, I mean, religion is such a personal meaning for people. It's really different. It's very intense for a lot of people. Or is it easier in some way because there are so much symbolism in the religion?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I
Okay.
understand absolutely. Well, this work is really done in a different spirit, not just because of the nature of the commission, but because we are both deeply interested in religion without really practicing any of them. But there is nothing more important in art than to lift the spirit. And Yael is constantly searching that light in her work. So when it comes to something like a piece that was, is a tapestry design for a temple here actually in Oakland, we don't have that many tapestries locally, but these really have something really special. The way, in a nutshell, the way that this progresses as a design is very intuitive. And we usually with Yale take on long road trips. In one of those journeys, we have just received this commission, and we knew, because it was site specific, we knew the size of it, we knew the theme, because she was giving this particular sentence to work from, you know. For my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. That is in Hebrew, just below the flames. So as we were driving, all of a sudden, out of the blue, she says, I got it. This phrase has 7 words, which are the 7 menorah branches. And coincidentally, the word for prayer fell right in the middle, at the center. So then
Oh,
she
that's
added
brilliant.
yeah, well, then she added the translation of it, kind of disguised as leaves in between the branches. I have here, if you allow me to read, it's very short. I found the description of the proposed design originally sent to the commissioning party. Of course, I don't see here a date because I always forget to date these things. But the size of the tapestry is 57 by 46 inches. The central motif is a tree menorah, each branch of the tree culminating in one Hebrew word and each word producing a flame. Together, the 7 branches and the Hebrew phrase constitute the menorah. The Hebrew text, as well as its translations, are the foliage and fruit, the pomegranate tree, which also stands for wisdom, knowledge. And then the 7 lilies, I didn't know that there were 7 of them somewhere. The 7 lilies at the lower edge of the tapestry are reminiscence of the existing ornaments that decorate the temple walls. From the base of the tapestry toward the tree, the lilies are transformed into stars. The earth is in bloom. From the menorah upwards, the stars reflect the flame light. So that was, the text that was sent to the party that, commissioned this piece.
Wow. It's amazing when you see a work. And for me, I just loved it because of the appearance. It's just the color, the drama. The balance of it was beautiful. And then when you explain all this, it's so much more. Thank you for sharing that. That really changes how someone looks at this. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Oh, it's beautiful. This next piece, we talked some about it at the beginning in the bio, but I guess there's a whole story with this one too. This is called Wall of Tears. This is the finished product. So would you talk about this project and how it came about?
Yes, yes, I love to. You know, this piece is our most recent project, and most importantly, it was a collective project. So, yes, let me find my notes about this. I don't want to forget anybody's name here.
Oh, that's right. You had what, 7 people worked on it?
Yeah, there were 7 people working on it.
Okay.
And the the piece was conceived last year. I was working with Yael, building her own little studio in a mountain property we share with our daughter Yadin here in the Sierras. Usually we share the same space, but because of the limitations of the space I have the loom up there, we decided to turn a tool shed into her tiny little studio. We do that ourselves. You know, if you are going to make a living like a weaving, better take a hammer and nails, you know. So, and a screwdriver too. So we were discussing, you know, the critical turn of events we were witnessing, you know, in the politics in general and domestic in particular. And and we were thinking, you know, can we somehow as weavers participate into some kind of protest, or at least bringing up the consciousness in people who may like tapestry and do not understand what happens with some of the symbols we are seeing around. So could the patterns of weaving express the patterns of oppression? In this case, the wool, the barbed wire. We were just back from a trip into the Middle East, and we have seen the apartheid type of wall that Israel was building all around them. So we start working, but the way we did that, I started developing some ideas on my own, and yeah, we'll start, you know, the same process in her own little tiny studio, and we will meet in the evenings. My vision, my drawings were very crude, and yet were very poetic. So we thought maybe we can find a way in between. If the theme itself was developed in 5 parts. You can kind of see the bottom is the water and then up. If you allow me to, I will tell you about the symbolism of the different sections here. If we start at the bottom, the first barrier encountered by the many people around the world that are forced to emigrate is water. The water of oceans and rivers that turn into deadly traps. In the composition, the wall races from the water. The alcatraz flowers, which are those flowers we see floating there, the white flowers, are in memory of the ones who lost their lives. Partially submerged and entangled in barbed wire, a cloth decorated with diamonds, a universal textile pattern, is a reference to what the immigrants are forced to leave behind. The Barbed Wire Museum, believe it or not, in Kansas City, there is such a thing like a barbed wire museum, exhibits over 2,000 different designs, some of them with modifications are found in the composition. The hands. The hands are a recurrent motif here. Hands represent presence and identity. Hands are both tools and creators. Hands intertwine, unify separate entities. Toward the top, and that was, Yael surprised me with this vision in one of our evening meetings. Hands and barbed wire, they have become birds. Birds in flight, symbolizing the transcendence of the human spirit. And then, as a personal imprint of their participation, we invited each weaver to weave a star of their own imagination. So the little stars you see there between the birds, very top against the red sky, those are the signs left by the different weavers. I will tell you now who the weavers were. Sally Williamson, Jacobo Mendoza, Maria Luisa Mendoza, Mary Lane, Betty Hilton Nash, Yadine Larochette, and Susan Maffei. And I want to stress this because I think that it's a collective project. There is so much that can be done. And really, for some reasons, we are, not ready or not engaged anymore in what was once upon a time, natural to weavers to weave together, not always on the same piece. Sometimes they were doing different pieces, like in monasteries, but they were sharing a same space. So if you are interested in knowing more about this, please, in our website, you will find a full documentation done with the help of Mary Lane and filmmaker Cory Duchateau.
So it's curious about the design. Did everybody have input about the design? It said you had meetings. So everybody came together and said, "Oh, I like this," or "I want that," or
no, not for this first piece. I thought that was already, a big kind of risk or challenge to invite people who usually do not weave from the back, usually don't weave from the side, into creating a piece that we share on the loom. I see that was the first risk. I believe that the Aubusson system is designed for this kind of things. People always work, in pairs or even in larger groups according to the size of a tapestry. And they all agreed about the interpretation of what they are weaving, because this is important. The weave is a pixel, and we do not have enough pixels to render a design exactly like the design is. So we have to make a translation of that design. But in the little group, in the 7 people I picked, I know them for years and years. I have known them for some of them all my life, all my adult life. So I knew I could trust them. And it was a challenge. And the biggest challenge, there were 2 challenges there. One was for the people who weren't used to work from the back. They were very, very worried about what am I doing? And the other challenge was for me, because I've been weaving standing for the last 35 years. Walking the treadles, as the Spanish, School of New Mexico Tapestry said. I was walking the treadles, and nobody really could do that. I realized from the beginning that I have to install the bench back to the loom, and stay and sit down.
Mm.
It wasn't easy for me. But we sat down, we shared, at least I would say, I was committing the people to say, okay, put 5 hours a day. They came for 2 weeks. Well, everybody put way over that. So, but, we were sitting and working, and, and that it was easier in that aspect for me. So here, this is the cutting off date. It was a great party. Unfortunately, none of the weavers but me was there. It happens the
Oh,
day after Susan Maffei, which was our last weaver, came. Yes, Kathy?
no, it was just too bad they weren't there. That's too bad.
Yes, I know. But, we extended our stay in Mexico this winter for 1 month. And that is something I should add. The invitation I sent to these weavers was received enthusiastically and with great solidarity with the intent, with the message. But also, I have to say that they were delighted, I think, to come and have a little winter break in our lovely village in Jalisco, in the Sierra Madres of the Mexican coast, so Pacific coast. So yeah, they have left, but we have a good time, and there is a small film, a 5 minute video that shows each one of them in their honor, and we wrote their initials there in the it will be in the back side of the tapestry. But so there are the initials, the year, and the video that identifies every one of the weavers.
Well, I have a message for those 7 weavers, which is you have my complete admiration because one, I think it'd be so intimidating to do that. What a great challenge. And you all, it was such a success to bring that many people together, and it is such a perfect whole. It's not like here's a little bit here and a little bit there. It's a perfect whole. It's
Thank you,
beautiful.
thank you, thank you. That was the intention. I have to tell you that words sometimes help. So you say, do not worry. That was a good one. Do not worry. And then let yourself go, be intuitive. That was very important. We have made it of tapestry working from the front, as most of people do today, something that is visually controlled. So, and tapestry requires all the senses, requires, that you know what you're doing. But what you are doing is also an experiential, knowledge. So the front doesn't look like the back. That is true. But once you know where is the difference, I think that you can add to the act of weaving many subtle aspects.
Well, talking about the art of weaving, you have a book titled Anatomy of Tapestry, Techniques, Materials, Care. We have an image of the cover, and Jean-Pierre, I hope I did the right ones. I pulled up some images that I think these images are in the book. Here's the cover of the book, right?
Yes,
Right.
that is the one. That
Okay.
is the one.
So tell
Uh,
us about this book, because you've got several books, but this one's kind of special to
yeah,
you. I kind of
well,
get it. Yes?
yeah, uh, Kadi, you are very, really receptive to all these things. It is true. Also, when you are, this is also the last one we did, and is a collaboration with our daughter, Jean Larochette, a
Oh, okay.
textile conservator. All the last chapters are covered by her on materials and care. So, working with my own daughter, on this project, which was published just the month before COVID. So we couldn't do any of the things we have planned to take the book around. But it was, a tremendous gratifying experience. We have been discussing this, I think, with Yadin since the time she was a student in conservation in Delaware at the Delaware University, the conservation program. That was maybe 30 years ago, so at least 25. And we never came really to a way to feel comfortable how we are going to present this. It's not a how-to book. It didn't intend to be a how-to book. It was more a way to gather information about something that has never been really written about low warp weaving. Aubusson weaving doesn't have an official, textbook.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't. You know
Oh,
why?
I'm
Because
surprised.
traditionally, this is something that was passed on from generations to the next. So there is no specific book about the technique. The French call, the French, the official French call it savoir-faire. It means know-how. So this amazing technology that created such works as the one we discussed, the unicorn pieces, all the amazing historical pieces, the pride and fortune of France for centuries, it was left at the hand of workers, called weavers, that just knew how to do it. It doesn't seem to give much credit to it. So I found this really disgraceful, and I wanted to put my little grain of salt, of sand there, but I have to say that this is not an official Aubusson tapestry weaving. This is my own version from what I have learned from my father and what I have learned working in Aubusson, from other weavers in Aubusson. I never attended the school in Aubusson. Actually, it doesn't exist anymore. There is something interesting about this. The encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia of Diderot d'Alembert, that was created in the 1700s, is a dictionary of the states of the arts and science, dedicates 36 pages to tapestry, both high and low warp.
Mm.
It's beautifully illustrated, but doesn't present any technique at all. So what I have tried to do, here in the right, you have a diagram. My diagrams were 16 by 16 inches large, so I could kind of take them like drawings, true drawings. I also wanted to avoid those diagrams that they look like computerized, very graphic. I wanted to avoid that because that is not the way you see weaving when you are doing it. So I will weave then a little example on that particular technique. Well, the technique here on the right is dovetailing, from what I can tell. One is dovetailing, compensating in each pass, and the other one is dovetailing where both warps, weft ends on the same warp. And the little weaving on the left is 6 by 6 inches, which is about the size that life size that you see it in the tapestry. I believe it's about diagonal shapes, but I'm not sure.
But these are from the book, right?
Yes, these are from the book, correct.
So this gives you an idea. I don't know if you can see the chat. It's blowing up. Everybody's like, I love this book, love this book, love this book. So but this will give you an idea of what you're going to see when you open this book. So it's pretty amazing. So who did your drawing? Was that Yael?
No, that is me. Actually, when you read the book, it sounds like it was hers. That somebody tricked me in there. But there are some illustrations that she did, but I love drawing. I have been drawing all my life.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not as good as her. But in this aspect, I love not just drawing, I love weaving too. So I tried to put my two loves together. And I tell you, the first drawing I did, it was for the Yadim was presenting a talk and a short weaving demonstration at the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. And she saying, you know, there are not really good graphics about weaving. This is, you know, there are few in all the books, but outside that, I don't find anything. So I told her, don't worry, I will do a couple for you. And that is how this thing started. When I started then, I realized, okay, you know, we are on a path here. We can go this way. Because talking about this, Kathy, is very difficult. Even, you know, following the diagram will be difficult. But trying to explain this in words is not very easily.
Well,
So
you did
it's not
beautifully.
easy. So
I'm sorry, I kind of sold you short there on the drawing ability.
yeah.
I'm very impressed with your drawing ability.
Well, thank you.
You did good.
There are 33 of them in the book.
Really?
Yeah, over
How long
30.
did it take you to do this book?
It took me 3 years, and then I got caught up with the ones that we were looking at first with the grain pieces, you know, the ones weavings about weaving, and that took me another 2 years. So a total of 5 years dedicated while Yael was doing other things, and then, oops, we came back together with the Wall of Tears project.
Oh, speaking of Wall of Tears, people want to know, where can they see that? Is
The
it
Wall of
on
Tears.
display anywhere, or will it be on display?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I forgot to mention that, which is very important, is intended to be donated eventually
Oh,
to
okay.
the correct, you know, appropriate institution, organization. I don't know. We right now, I know that you are going to ask me, that will be your next question, but I can answer, I can have two answers to that. So,
Go
but
for
that
it.
is that I'm right now on a table that is right behind me somewhere here. I'm stitching the slits left open during the weaving. We left a lot of slits open because wanted to see how much we can highlight the barbed wires, you know, that ran across horizontally. I didn't want them too integrated to the weave. So we left way too many slits. Now I got to stitch some of them. And my other job, and maybe here some of your wonderful members can help, is to show this. I'm preparing a PowerPoint presentation. I can travel, you know, if you know, eventually, probably, and just do a 1 day session, you know, exhibition, presentation. We like to exhibit this as much, to expose this as much as we can. You know, is part of the intention here.
Oh, that's amazing. But you haven't decided where it's going to go yet.
No, not yet. We haven't decided even where we are going to show it first. There are a couple of places here locally that I know that they will be receptive, and I'm trying to make my mind. But also depends, you know, when I will be totally done with this. I hope that in a couple of weeks. And I know that sending out this kind of proposals, I know because I hear about it. Believe me, I have never sent proposals in my professional life. We have always worked, you know, through the grapevine. So I really even don't know very good how to go about this. But the piece will be available, and you know, we we will love to share it with as many people as we can.
Will you post on your website when you confirm places so people can go and find them?
Yes, yes,
Okay, good.
we will do that. Yes, we have Mary Lane is very wonderful about, you know, updating everything that has to do with the world, the world of tears.
Yay, Mary. We love Mary. Well, that's kind of the next question, which is next for you? And I think that's your answer, right? What is next for you? Was
What
that
is
your
next?
answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else going on?
Well, well, other than stitching, something, yeah, it is, of course, do they stop coming, those ideas? Maybe one day, I don't know. But one work, we were discussing it a little earlier, it guides you to the next, right? So maybe the tapestry will follow this one, the wall of tears. Maybe it will show the other side of the wall of tears. Maybe could be called the wall of mirrors, reflecting back the prevailing motivations, fear, ignorance that build those walls. That wall is not built by the people south of it. The tapestry as we see it is seen by the people who come north. The people who go south usually fly over it. They don't even know that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pitiful. We love both countries. We belong to both countries. We belong to Mexico and California, northern Mexico and California. And we don't understand how this, ignorance can take over people's mind. Mexico, yeah, I know there are violence in Mexico, and so there is everywhere, Here we are not except of violence, but after living there for most of my adult life, I live there part of the year, and I live here with Yael the other part of the year. I can tell you, it's a shame that we do not have a better understanding of the beauty of these two cultures.
I love it that your mind, you're always thinking, you're taking it to the next level, you're doing the next piece. I can't wait to see the next thing that comes up from you. And that a lot of people are asking, where can they go see your work? Is that listed on your website?
Which work?
Any work.
Any work? Yeah.
Yeah, if we want to see your work, where do we go?
Like see it live? No, I don't think it's on the website. We do have some pieces in public places. Some are in temples, cathedrals, libraries that I can think of. There are a couple of pieces belonging to museums, but there are, I guess, somewhere in storage. We rarely see them. But, unfortunately, most of the work went to private, well, not unfortunately, it was fantastic to be working for people. But yeah, in that aspect, all there is are images,
We got a couple of questions because our we lost the question ability through Zoom. Oh, this is a great idea. Barbara Long wants to know, do you have prints available of your work?
Prints.
Yeah, do you, let's say, take pictures of your work and sell the picture?
Right. No, we don't. We've been offered by,
Oh,
yeah, actually there was one of our or two of our collectors who suggested it, and we didn't go for it. I think that maybe we are too much of a purist, in a time when everything becomes image on paper or the screen, that is why we weave tapestries and don't do prints, It would be much easier to do the print and just forget about weaving them. So, but there are in our books, in that book that you mentioned, There are a couple of pieces there, and there are more in. There are other books. There is one about water songs, which is a story of 10 tapestries that we did with Yael on the theme of water. And well, yeah, there are printed, but not as images that will be postcards. Well, there are postcards too, but done by the people who purchase the pieces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
They are not available commercially.
Jean-Pierre, I've had such a wonderful afternoon talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you somewhere, either when you're teaching or talking about your work, or hopefully it will be the Wall of Tears will be there, and we can see it and hear you talk about it. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Mandy. It's been a real pleasure.
If you want to see more of his work, go to this website. Somebody was asking earlier about where's his website. Go to his website. You can see much more about his work. And there is a wonderful video that you can watch. You can download it and watch. So go check out his website and see more of the work of Jean-Pierre and his lovely wife. And you can see how the work is made and some of the different things that he's been working on. We also want to thank our sponsor today, Lojan Wheels and Looms. I hope they enjoyed this. What a wonderful program this was today. This is one you're going to want to go back and watch again. So thank you, Lojan, for being a sponsor. If you would like to be a sponsor of Textiles and Tea, and we have some episodes coming up, we don't have a sponsor. So we're looking for people who want to sponsor some upcoming episodes of Textiles and Tea. You can either just go online and purchase the sponsorship. If you have questions, you can call the office and they'll be glad to help you with that. Whether you're a group, an individual, we had individuals in the past, we've got some coming up. If you want to honor an event or a person, please come and use our Textiles and Tea sponsorship as a way to honor someone. We would love that. If you are interested in keeping programs like this going, please join or be a sponsor to support programs like this. You can donate to the Textiles and Tea and keep the programming going, whether it's Textiles and Tea or the Spinning and Weaving Week in the fall, which we've been working on. Every time you donate, it helps those programs keep going, and we really do appreciate it. If you've missed any of the episodes or you want to watch them again, who does not want to watch this one again? It was so delightful. You can do that, and you can either do it on Facebook or you can do it through YouTube. And if you like watching YouTube, be sure you sign up, because if you do, then you'll get a notice that a new one has been uploaded. Next week, we have Jerry Forkner. A lot of y'all know Jerry. She does felting and she puts in lights in it. And I'm not going to be here next week. So we have Erica Houston's going to do it. Erica is one of our new employees, and she is going to do Textiles and Tea for the next 3 weeks while I am going to be gone. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate you taking over, and I hope you have as much fun as I do when I do this. So thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Happy tea. Oh my